I found the paternity test results in her glove box, not hidden, just left there like he forgot the lie. The child wasn't mine, but the affair had been with someone terrifyingly close. That's the part that still chokes me. It was a Tuesday, mid-March, right when winter pretends it's spring but still slaps you in the face with cold wind. I remember that because I just picked up groceries, comfort stuff, mostly. Frozen lasagna, that almond creamer my wife always said we couldn't afford but bought anyway, and a six-pack of the beer I used to drink before I got serious. I had her car that day. Mine was in the shop. And I only opened the glove box because the check engine light blinked, and I thought maybe the manual could tell me if it was urgent. Instead, I found a thin envelope wedged under a bunch of expired registration papers. No name on the front. No return address. Just that stiff, clinical paper with the corner folded like it had been read. And reread. I didn't mean to open it. I swear, I didn't go looking to become someone different that day. I didn't wake up thinking my life was a lie. But my name was there, or rather, the phrase that made my throat close. Alleged father, Cole E. Weller. Probability of paternity, 0%. I didn't breathe for a few seconds. Not in that cinematic way, like the world slows and music plays. It was more like forgetting how to be a person. I just sat there, hand on the wheel, staring at those numbers. 0%. Like someone ran a test and confirmed the nothingness. Like everything I'd poured into raising that little girl for 2 years hadn't just been erased. It had never been real to begin with. Her name is Emma. Or was. I don't even know what to call her now. My daughter? My not daughter? She's got my eyes. At least, I thought she did. Everyone said it. Maybe I said it the loudest. And the worst part? The affair wasn't with some stranger. It was with someone who sat at our table every other Sunday. Someone who toasted our anniversary, laughed at my dumb jokes, and once held Emma while she slept. My brother. Logan. Yeah, that Logan. He was always the wild one. Charming, impulsive, the kind of guy who never had a job longer than 6 months but always showed up with the best stories. Women loved him. So did Emma. God help me, I loved him too. Because that's what brothers do, right? You forgive the missed calls, the broken promises, the years of cleaning up after them because somewhere inside, you're still 8 years old and remember the time he taught you how to ride a bike. I didn't go inside when I got home. I just sat in the driveway, groceries slowly thawing in the trunk, envelope still in my lap. My hands weren't shaking. They should have been. But they weren't. They were still. Still like a man who's finally seeing the truth not as some abstract suspicion, but as a printed document with his name and his brother's betrayal spelled out in font size 12. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. For 2 days, I played the part. I kissed Emma goodnight. I poured my wife's coffee. I nodded at her stories like I hadn't just watched our whole life crack open like a rotten egg. Because I wasn't ready for what came next. But on the 3rd day, I took the envelope and drove to my brother's apartment. Didn't call. Didn't text. Just knocked. He opened the door shirtless, confused, hair tousled like he'd just rolled out of someone else's bed. His eyes scanned my face, and I swear to God, he knew. Not because I said anything. Just because he recognized the look, that final moment before a man stops pretending. I held up the envelope. Forget something? I asked. And that's when his face changed. Not panic. Not guilt. Just sadness. Like the kind of sadness you get when you know the house of cards you build is finally falling, and you were the one who stacked it on sand to begin with. He didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Because now we were both holding a secret too big to bury. And it was about to ruin everything. He didn't ask me to come in. I didn't ask to be invited. We just stood there, me with the envelope still in hand, him barefoot on that sticky linoleum floor that smelled like last night's takeout and stale cologne. That apartment always felt like a layover. Logan never stayed anywhere long enough for it to become a home. He looked down at the paper. Said nothing. And God help me, I wanted him to lie. Isn't that crazy? After everything, some part of me hoped he'd deny it. Tell me it was a mistake, a cruel joke, a mail mix-up. Something I could rage against without losing both my brother and my family in the same breath. Instead, he let out this long, slow sigh, like he'd been holding his breath for a year and finally decided to exhale. I didn't know she was going to keep it, he said. Voice low. Ashamed. That was the first confirmation. The second came when I didn't hit him. I wanted to. Every cell in my body said I should. But I didn't. Because if I did, it'd make this moment real. Physical. Permanent. And I wasn't ready to stop pretending. 2 years, Jace, I said. 2 years I've been raising her. Holding her. singing to her at night while her actual father. Don't, he cut in, sharper than I expected. Don't do that. You are her father. No, I said. I'm the guy who got lied to. He swallowed hard and leaned against the doorframe. I didn't plan it. It was just one night. You two had a fight. She called me, said she needed to talk. One drink turned into three. You know how it goes. I laughed, one of those empty, bitter laughs that feels more like spitting glass. Yeah, I know how it goes. Except it's not just one night when there's a kid with your blood running through her veins. He nodded like he'd been expecting me to say that. Like he'd said it to himself 100 times already. You know what the worst part is? I said, voice tight. I believed in you. Every time Mom said you were a screw-up, every time Dad asked why I kept bailing you out, I told them you just needed time. You just needed someone to believe in you. Logan looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, he looked like the kid I grew up with. The one who used to sneak Oreos into my lunchbox. The one who covered for me when I broke Dad's radio. Not the man who stole my family out from under me. Just a boy who made a mistake that turned fatal. I didn't want this, he said. No, I said, stepping back. You wanted her. He flinched. Small. Barely noticeable. But it was enough. And that was it. I turned and walked away. Didn't yell. Didn't threaten. Just left him standing there, staring at a life he helped break and didn't know how to fix. When I got home, Emma was asleep on the couch, one sock off, thumb in her mouth, that little pink elephant she loved curled against her chest. And Lauren, my wife, she was folding laundry. Calm. Casual. Like the entire universe wasn't seconds away from splitting open. I stood there, watching her, wondering how long it would take for her to notice the envelope in my hand. Wondering if she'd feel it, the weight of truth entering the room. When she looked up, her smile froze halfway to full. Her eyes locked on the paper. And I saw it. The exact moment she realized what I knew. She didn't speak. Just stood slowly, the half-folded sweater slipping from her hands. You left it in the glove box, I said. Quiet. I didn't mean to, she replied. No stammer. No denial. So it's true. She nodded. Logan? I asked, even though I already knew. Another nod. Slower this time. I didn't yell. I didn't have it in me. Instead, I sat down on the floor, not because I meant to, but because suddenly standing felt like too much. The room was spinning gently, like a carousel of a life I no longer recognized. Lauren sat too, across from me. Legs crossed, face pale. It was one time, she whispered. I told myself it didn't matter. That it was a mistake. I didn't even think I was pregnant until weeks later. At first, I considered getting a paternity test. I even looked up clinics. But by then, you were you. You were the one who held me during the ultrasounds. You painted the nursery. You were the one who showed up. And I couldn't bring myself to risk that. I looked at her, eyes burning. And you didn't think I deserved to know? I was scared, she said, voice cracking. I didn't want to lose everything. You already did, I said. You just didn't know it yet. She tried to reach for me, but I pulled back. I wasn't ready. Not for comfort. Not for answers. I looked at Emma again. She didn't know. She was just a little girl, dreaming kid dreams on a sofa that used to mean home. And in that moment, I realized something so painful it nearly knocked the wind out of me. I still loved her. That didn't go away with a test result. But everything else? That was the part one didn't know how to hold anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of rage. Not even betrayal. But because I kept seeing her, Emma, standing in the kitchen last week, holding a crayon drawing in both hands like it was a gift from her soul. It's us, she'd said. You and me, Daddy. And now? Now I didn't know who I was in that picture. Morning came like a punishment. Sunlight too bright. Coffee too bitter. Lauren sat at the edge of the bed, still in yesterday's clothes, her eyes hollowed out from crying. She didn't say a word when I got up. Didn't ask where I was going. Because she already knew. I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just away. That aimless kind of driving you do when you don't want to be followed, but you also don't want to be alone with your own thoughts. My phone buzzed twice, Logan once, Lauren once. I didn't answer either. But at a red light, I saw the third message. From Mark, my oldest friend. A guy who once punched a hole in a drywall helping me build a bookshelf, then blamed the stud placement like it was a personal betrayal. His text was simple. Come over. I've got bourbon and silence. So I did. He didn't ask questions. Didn't say, I told you so, even though he'd never liked Lauren much. He just poured 2 glasses, handed me one, and sat down across from me like we were waiting out a storm neither of us started. I raised a child that wasn't mine, I said eventually. He nodded. And you did it well. That doesn't make it better. No, he agreed. But it makes you a hell of a man. The silence after that was thick, but not empty. It was the kind of silence you earn. The kind that only exists between people who know how much things can hurt and how little can be done to fix them. Then he asked something that stopped me cold. You still love her? I didn't know which her he meant, Lauren or Emma. So I answered the only way I could. One of them never lied to me. The other did. He nodded again, slowly, like he knew exactly which one I meant. Later that afternoon, I went home, not because I was ready to forgive, but because I needed answers. Lauren was at the table, same place she'd been the night before. This time, the envelope was there too, unopened again, like it might rewrite itself if she stared long enough. She looked up when I walked in. She's at daycare, she said quietly. I sat down across from her. I need you to tell me everything, I said. Every detail. No spin. No soft edges. So she did. It happened 2.5 years ago. One night. After a fight we had about money, or time, or something else small that feels big when life is already stretched thin. She said she ran into Logan by accident, at a bar, of all things. She said he looked sad. Said she was sad. That they talked. That she had one too many. That he walked her to her car. That they didn't make it to the car. I listened. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Sometimes healing isn't about getting comfort. It's about absorbing the pain until it stops being surprising. I almost told you, she said at the end. When I found out I was pregnant, I almost said it. But you were so excited. You picked out books. You read to my belly. I couldn't take that away. So you just took away the truth, I said. She nodded. Tears again. But quieter this time. What about Logan? I asked. Did you two keep in touch? No, she said, quickly. Never again. I told him it was a mistake. He said he agreed. That it didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. It meant I'd build a life on a lie I didn't even know existed. That night, I went into Emma's room while she slept. Her little hand was curled around her stuffed elephant. Her breathing slow, easy. The kind of peace only children know. I sat beside her bed for a long time. Didn't touch her. Didn't speak. Just looked at her. Trying to see what was mine. And what wasn't. The thing is, she was still my girl. No DNA test could rewrite bedtime songs or scrape knees or those mornings she climbed into my lap just to be held. But could I be her father, without hating the woman who made me one? That was the question that kept me awake until morning. Not the betrayal. Not the paternity. But the weight of trying to love a child with someone I couldn't trust. I didn't speak to Lauren for 3 days after that. Not out of cruelty. But because I needed space to feel what I needed to feel and not what she needed me to. And then, on the 4th day, the front door opened. It was Logan. Of course it was. He stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes low. I'm not here to fight, he said. I need you to know something. I didn't say a word. He reached into his jacket, pulled out another envelope. This isn't from a lab, he said. It's from me. Inside was a letter. His handwriting. His words. A confession. A plea. A mess. But also something I hadn't expected. A revelation. She wasn't the only one who kept a secret, he'd written. And Emma? I wondered for a long time if she was really mine. I told myself it didn't matter, that Lauren would have said something if there was any doubt. But the truth is, I was scared to find out. I looked up. What the hell are you talking about? Logan exhaled. And then he dropped a name I hadn't heard in years. Lauren's ex. The one before me. The one she said had vanished without a trace. And suddenly, I wasn't sure anyone was telling the truth. There's a moment, right after your heart's been broken a second time, where you don't feel rage anymore. Or sadness. Or betrayal. You just feel tired. Like your soul sat down on a bench somewhere and told the rest of you to go on without it. That's what hit me after Logan said the name, Aaron Blake. I hadn't heard that name since the first 6 months Lauren and I were dating. He was the one before you, she'd said. Did a number on me. That was all she gave me. Said he left town without warning. Said she never heard from him again. But apparently, she had. Or at least, Logan had. We sat across from each other on the back porch. The light from the kitchen window spilled out over us like a spotlight no one wanted. Logan wasn't looking at me. He was staring out into the dark like he expected Aaron himself to walk out of the tree line. You need to explain, I said, barely keeping my voice steady. Logan took a breath. About a year ago, he showed up. At my place. Said he heard I was back in town. Said he needed help. Help with what? Logan hesitated. Then, money. And a name taken off a birth certificate. I blinked. What? He looked at me then. And it was like seeing someone already half buried in guilt. He said Lauren had lied to him. That he'd gotten a letter from a lawyer saying he owed back child support. For a girl named Emma. But he swore he'd never signed anything. Never even knew she was pregnant. I stared at him. And you didn't think to tell me? Logan shook his head, slow. I thought he was lying. I thought he was just trying to pull something shady. And honestly, I didn't want to go near it. Not after what happened. And Lauren? I asked. Did she know he was in town? She didn't when he showed up, Logan said. But I told her. My chest tightened. And she begged me not to say anything. Said he was dangerous. Said she'd handled it. Handled it. That word felt like poison in my throat. I stood up. So let me get this straight. Not only did you sleep with my wife behind my back, not only did you hide a paternity test, but you also sat on the knowledge that there might be another man out there who's Emma's actual father. Logan stood too, hands raised. I didn't know what was true anymore. All I knew was that you loved that little girl more than anything. And I didn't want to be the one to ruin that. You already did, I said, my voice breaking. You just didn't know it yet. He didn't follow me when I walked back inside. I think even he knew there was no fixing this now. That night, I waited for Lauren to come home. When she walked through the door, grocery bag in hand, she looked exhausted. But when she saw me at the kitchen table, the letter in front of me, a second glass already poured, she froze. Logan came by, I said. She didn't speak. He told me about Aaron. Her jaw clenched. I need to hear it from you. Lauren closed her eyes. Sat down like the weight of it finally pulled her under. I didn't know I was pregnant until after Aaron left, she said. I tried to contact him. He never responded. Disconnected number. Moved. Gone. I thought I'd never hear from him again. So I did what I had to do. And then I met you. I shook my head. That's not good enough anymore. Did you ever have a paternity test between Emma and him? No, she said. I didn't need one. Why not? Her voice was a whisper now. Because when I saw how you looked at her, I wanted her to be yours. That hit me harder than anything else. Because it wasn't even about blood anymore. It was about the stories we tell ourselves to sleep at night. I stood, walked to the fridge, pulled down the magnets holding Emma's drawings. One by one. Quietly. Like morning. Where is he now? I asked. She looked up, eyes wide. Aaron. Yeah, I said. Because if there's even a chance he's her father. I need to know. Lauren hesitated. Then, he's gone again. But I have an address. One he used to pick up mail. Then I'm going. You can't, she said quickly. He's not stable. He's not safe. I turned back to her, steady now. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing it because that little girl deserves to know where she came from. All of it. And what if he is her father? She asked, barely above a whisper. I looked her dead in the eyes. Then I'm still her dad. That doesn't change. But it might change everything else. I packed a bag that night. Mark insisted on coming with me. He screws with you. I've got a tire iron and 6 years of therapy under my belt, he said with a half smile. The drive was 4 hours. A town so small it barely made the GPS blink. Just a dusty gas station, a post office, and a diner with yellow curtains and a sun-bleached help wanted sign. Aaron's mail address was a P.O. box. The clerk said he hadn't picked up in weeks. But someone had, just yesterday. A woman. Tall. Brown hair. Tattoos. I asked if she had a name. He shrugged. She signed the log as E. And right then, something clicked. Not Aaron. Natalie. Lauren's old friend from college. The one who helped her move. The one who vanished 6 months after Emma was born. The one I'd always thought seemed too close. Another name. Another ghost. Another lie waiting behind the next door. And this time, I was ready to open it. The thing about unraveling a lie is that you never know which tug will bring the whole thing down. Sometimes it's a word, a photo, a face you forgot to remember. For me, it was a signature, E. That was all it took to send me back into memories I thought were harmless. Natalie. She'd always hovered at the edge of our life. Not close enough to draw attention, but always there. She and Lauren had gone to college together. Roommates, best friends, the kind of bond that makes you lower your guard without realizing it. She helped us move into our first house, brought over casseroles after Emma was born, laughed too hard at my jokes. And then, one day she vanished. Lauren said she moved to the coast. New job, new life. Didn't elaborate. I didn't press. But now, standing in a post office with a sleepy-eyed clerk and a gut full of dread, I realized maybe Natalie hadn't vanished at all. She just stepped out of the frame. And someone, maybe Lauren, made sure I never looked back. Mark and I left that post office with nothing but a name and 1,000 questions. The woman at the box had signed E. That's all we had. No address. No contact. Just a ghost trail. But Mark wasn't just my friend. He was an amateur internet detective when it came to things that mattered. By the time we pulled into the next town over, he'd found an old business registry. A florist in the city registered under Natalie Carter, shut down 2 years ago. But the emergency contact? Lauren E. Weller. My wife. The pieces were sliding together. Slow, deliberate. Natalie hadn't left. Lauren sent her away. That night, I confronted her. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just sat across from her at the kitchen table and said, I know you lied about Natalie. Her hand stopped folding laundry. She's been here, I added. Picked up Aaron's mail yesterday. Lauren closed her eyes. Exhaled like it hurt to keep the truth in any longer. She came back when Emma was 6 months old, she said, barely above a whisper. Aaron had just found out about the birth. He was furious. Said he'd fight for custody. I didn't know what to do. I called Natalie. She said she'd handle it. Handle how? She got him to leave. Talked him down. Told him he'd never win in court. Said if he walked away now, we could all pretend none of it happened. I stared at her. So she became your cleaner? She was my friend, Lauren said, tears in her voice. And yes, she did what I was too scared to do. Why now? I asked. Why show up again? Lauren shook her head slowly. I don't know. Maybe Aaron never really left. Maybe she kept tabs. Maybe she's the only one who still thinks Emma deserves the truth. I leaned back in my chair. The ceiling fan spun overhead, slow and rhythmic, like a clock ticking down to something I didn't want to see. You buried all of this, I said. All of it. Me, Logan, Aaron, Natalie. You layered lies until I couldn't find the floor. I was trying to protect her, she said. But you broke me, I replied. And that's when she stopped defending herself. She just sat there. Small. Silent. Spent. The next morning, I drove to the park. It was still early. Emma was with Lauren's sister, coloring on a bench, chatting to herself like kids do when the world still feels safe. I watched her for a long time. And when she saw me, she grinned. Daddy. I crouched to catch her in my arms. She smelled like sunshine and markers. Her little hands wrapped around my neck like I was the only truth she knew. And that's when I knew what had to happen. I couldn't keep doing this halfway. I couldn't live in this house where every hallway echoed with what wasn't said. I had to break something else to salvage what still mattered. That night, I packed a bag. Lauren watched me from the doorway. No protests. No tears this time. I'm not leaving, Emma, I said. I'm leaving you. Until you can be honest, completely. She nodded. I never stopped loving you, she said. Even when I messed everything up. I never stopped loving us, I replied. But us wasn't real. She didn't try to stop me. Because this time she knew better. I stayed with Mark again. Slept on the pull-out. Ate Chinese food from paper cartons. Stared at the ceiling like it held secrets. And one night, 2 weeks later, there was a knock at the door. It wasn't Lauren. It wasn't Logan. It was Natalie. Older. Softer. But still unmistakably her. She handed me a flash drive. No more secrets, she said. I opened the files that night. Emails. Letters. A voice memo from Aaron. Rambling. Angry. Scared. And one folder marked test. Inside was a scan of a DNA report. Dated 2 years ago. Probability of paternity. Aaron Blake. 99.9%. I checked the header. It wasn't from a court or government lab. Just a private clinic, anonymous client ID, no chain of custody. It wouldn't hold up legally. But the truth doesn't always need a courtroom to hurt. Emma wasn't mine. She wasn't Logan's. She wasn't even the lie I'd been told. She was the daughter of a man who left, and a mother who stayed quiet. And somehow still, in some impossible way, she was mine. Because I chose her. And now I had a new choice to make. Not about blood. About truth. About whether I could build something honest from the ruins of so many lies. It took me a week to open the flash drive again. Not because I didn't believe it. I did. Natalie told the truth. The test confirmed it. Emma wasn't mine. Not by blood. Not by accident. But belief doesn't dull grief. It just names it. What I lost wasn't a daughter. It was the illusion that love was simple, that showing up was enough to guarantee truth. Lauren called the next morning. Just one line. Emma's asking where you are. I went. Not for her. For Emma. She ran to me like nothing had changed. Arms around my neck, her little voice calling Daddy like she always had. And in that moment, I realized nothing had changed that really mattered. I held her close, and I knew I wasn't walking away. Lauren and I didn't go to war. No bitter courtrooms. We agreed to joint custody, split holidays, shared decisions. She apologized again, and I didn't forgive her all at once. But I showed up. We both did. For Emma. Because she deserved parents who chose her above their shame. Logan left town. Sent me a photo of Emma and me from years ago, before any of this broke. Said he hoped I found peace. I didn't reply. Some wounds don't need words. Just distance. Natalie disappeared again, like she always did. Left a note through Mark. Said the truth costs, but silence cost more. Hoped I'd find my way. I think I did. Not by forgetting, but by choosing what to remember. Last week, Emma and I went to the lake. Just us. She wore her yellow jacket and held my hand like she thought I might float away. She looked up at me and asked, "Why do you love me?" I paused, then said, "Because I choose to. Every day." She nodded, leaned her head on my shoulder, and whispered, "Okay." That was all she needed. That was all I needed too. Because the truth is, I didn't stay because I had to. I stayed because love, the real kind, doesn't flinch when the paperwork falls apart. It just stays. Quiet. Faithful. True. And sometimes, that's enough to build a whole new life on.